guys doing this morning?
Great.
You guys doing well?
Yes.
I'm excited
Excuse me,
to
sir.
be here. I'm excited to be here. You guys are fired up, huh? Good. You got some new faces in here. All right. How's your business going? Okay. Excited about your business. Am I using a clicker?
No.
What am I doing? Am I using a clicker? How's your business going? You guys excited about your business right now?
Yes.
Yeah, this is actually a great time to be in business. You know, coming back here, every time I come back here, there's so much history back here, right? You guys know, I was telling the team this story maybe about a week ago. 5 years ago, all of us were, do I have something to write with? Okay, perfect, we got some writing stick, right? So 5 years ago, we had an office in Chino. How many of us here were in the office in Chino? Some of you were here, right? So we had an office in Chino. No, well, before that, we had an office in Ontario. Who was in the office in Ontario? Anyone was here in Ontario? Okay, so we had an office in Ontario, and we had about 10,000 square feet in Ontario. This was in 2000 and, what year was that? 2006? Yeah, 2006, 2007, right? Who knows what happened right around that time? The market dropped, right? And so right around 2008, when the market dropped, so we have 10,000 square feet, it's right off of 10 and Vineyard, and we had been in that office for 4 years, right? So it came time to negotiate the lease. So we asked the landlord, we said, hey, we want to get the walls painted. We had one wall that we needed to break and some carpet, put some clean carpet and all this stuff. And the landlord came back to us and told us that they weren't going to do the carpet, they weren't going to paint the wall, they weren't going to make any adjustments. And so if we wanted to stay there, that we had to renew the lease, and they gave us the date to renew the lease, and if we did not renew the lease at the time, that they were going to charge us a month and a half every month for the rent. So our rent was like $10,000. So they would charge us $15,000 a month till we signed the lease, right? And the office was 92% vacant. The building was 92% vacant, right? And so I remember it was August. I was just about to go to the south of France. I was going to be gone to the south of France for 2 weeks. And I told Schleman, I said, man, we're like the only ones here. We're paying $10,000 a month. We're like the anchor of the building. Like, we're the only energy in that building, right? And these guys are playing hardball with us. I said, Schleman, you know Schleman's a great negotiator, right? So I said, Schleman, find a way to talk to these guys, because I don't think we should leave this building. So Schleman goes back, and they said, no, it's non-negotiable. So I said, okay. So I told Schleman, I said, okay, we're moving. I guess this is not the place for us to be. We're moving. And Schleman goes, moving? Where we're moving to, right? We literally had no office, right? So I just said, tell them that we're leaving, right? And then so when we told them that we were leaving, they came back and said, well, let's negotiate, right? And I told Schleman, I said, let them know the bullet's out the chamber, we're leaving. Right? And then so we decided that we're leaving, right? So Schleman's like, well, show me where we're going to go. I said, I don't know. We'll figure it out. Let's just move, right? So, and we have an emergency meeting like this on a Saturday morning, and I tell the team, I says, look, by next Saturday, we're leaving, so everybody grab your stuff out of your office. Everybody's going to work from their home until we figure out what we're going to do. And I'm going to the south of France, right? So literally the next Saturday, you guys, the morning we do BPM, and that afternoon we did an afternoon move, and literally we had the whole office was empty, and then Sunday the team came down and made sure that the office was clean. They never even gave us back our money, right? And then so we had another office, one of our SMVs, what's his name again? Brooks. You guys remember Brooks? Yes. Brooks Thurberg. So I called Brooks, and Brooks had maybe like a 1,200 square foot office, right? And we were me and Schleman were operating a branch. So we said, hey man, we're gonna come to your office, and I don't know how long we're gonna be there. and we're going to do BPMs on Wednesday nights and stuff like that. And then, so we go from 10,000 square foot office, we're mobilizing that team to a 1,200 square foot office, right? So we're there for a little while, and everyone's working out of their cars, and it was so much fun, right? Everyone was real productive. And one day I sat down and I was thinking to myself, I said, well, wait a minute, you know, there's uncertainty in the marketplace right now, right? Because everything that was going on. And I thought to myself, I said, oh my God, this is the best time for our business right now, right? Why? Because people are dissatisfied, right? Because the real estate market had no momentum, the mortgage industry had no momentum, the debt industry had no momentum, right? The health insurance industry had no momentum, unemployment was its highest right now. So what exists in the marketplace, people were dissatisfied. So I start thinking, I'm thinking, and I get this vision, right? I get this vision, it's like, oh my God, we got to get a big office, because at the time, everyone was shrinking, right? Everyone was downsizing and all this stuff. And I said, oh my God, this is the time for us to upsize. So I called, Schleiman and I have this real estate broker that we always deal with, that always gets our offices. Her name is Carol, right? So I called Carol. I said, Carol, I had this vision last night, right? She says, what? She says, I said, I want a 20,000 square foot office, right? And I want to pay less for that office than I paid for the 10,000 square foot office, right? I said, there's somebody right now, Carol, that's got a 20,000 square foot office and the rent's killing them, right? And all we need to do is come in, right? Take over their lease, right? And all they have to do is leave, and we come in and we rock and roll. And Carol's like, Charlier, you're dreaming, there's no way. I said, Carol, I saw it in my mind, I know it's there. Your job is to find it, right? So about a week later, I'm on the 91, right? I'm on the 91 because I'm living in Corona at the time, and I'm flying down the 91. I'm going to a meeting, and Carol calls me. She says, Charlier, she's like, oh my God, you're not gonna believe this. I found the office that you told me. I can't believe I found the office. I said, where's it at? She says it's in Chino. I was like, oh man, I'm not going to Chino. I'm not going to Chino. She said, but it's exactly the office you painted in your mind, right? I said, I'm not going to Chino, right? I said, find another place, and I hung up. And then so I'm driving down the freeway, and for some reason something tells me, you know what, go look at the office, right? So I called Carol back. I was like, Carol, she's like, Dan, don't tell me you want to see the office now. I just left. I said, it's okay, just give me the address, right? So she gives me the address. I jump on the 71, get off, I forgot the name of the exit. But I go to the office, and it was right off Pipeline. You guys know where Pipeline is? It was right off Pipeline. So I get to the office, I park my car, I walk in the door, and I went, oh my God, this is what I saw in my mind, right? So I called Carol back. I said, Carol, you found the office, right? She says, Dan, we can get that office for 75 cents a square foot, right? I was like, are you freaking kidding me? She's like, no. I said, negotiate it to like 65 cents a square foot. So she negotiates it to 65 cents a square foot, and I said, okay, how fast can you get everybody out of there, right? So that company that was actually there was actually growing. They were going to another facility that was actually bigger. So she negotiated the contract. I called Schleiman. I said, yo, Schleiman, guess what? And he's like, what? I said, I found the office, right? He's like, what? Tell me the details. I was like, call Carol, right? And then so we moved in Chino. And at the time in Chino, right, we had, you guys know Louise Hay?
Yes.
Okay, Louise Hay was there. You know Steve Hay?
Yes.
Steve Hay was there, right? Moved in with us. You guys know Paul Ireton?
Yes.
Paul Ireton was there, right? You guys know Nate Ireton?
Yes.
Nate was there. Nate the Great was there, right? And you guys know a guy by the name of Francis Ho?
Yes.
Francis Ho was there. We recruited Francis Ho. You guys know a lady by the name of Tita Lazan?
Yes.
Tita Lazan was there, right? You guys know a guy by the name of Dr. Howard Q?
Yes.
Dr. Q was there, right? You guys know Jennifer Lee?
Yes.
Jennifer, most of you don't know Jennifer Lee. Jennifer Lee was there, right? You guys know about a guy by the name of David Lynn? Okay, David Lynn was there. You guys know someone by the name of Jeff Brookshire, Jeff and Michelle Brookshire, right? Jeff and Michelle Brookshire was there, right? So all of these individuals are in Chino with us, right? Some of them got recruited. Francis Ho got recruited there. Tita Lazan got recruited there. Jennifer Lee got recruited there, right? So we're all. So I want you to imagine in your mind our training room, right, could hold probably anywhere between 150 to 200 people in our training room. And our BPM room, our business presentation room, could hold about 60 to 70 people, right? So we have 40 offices, 50 cubes in the down of the market, right? And the story we created at the time, the story I told the team at the time, I says, look, you guys, everything like the last, so this was 2008, 2007, 2008, I said the last 9 years that we've been in business has gotten us ready for this moment right now, right? Because in our BPMs, it used to be we had to disturb people, right? And then intrigue them, right? Because no one was dissatisfied, right? So I said, now, you guys, there's so many people looking for an opportunity and all this stuff. So we start rocking and rolling in Chino, right? So we blow up, tons of momentum. I remember when I first got that office, right? So I would walk out in the parking lot, like you guys have a parking lot right here, right? You guys are lucky, by the way. You can park here, you don't have to pay. You know my guys pay like $20 to park in LA? Our guests pay $20 to park in LA, right? You guys got free parking. I just pulled up, boom. I was like, oh my God, this is cool, right? Right? Sometimes you don't realize how good you have it until you don't have it anymore, right? And then, so we started recruiting and building. So I would literally stand in the parking lot, and I would imagine in my mind that the parking lot was so full, right, that there would be nowhere to park. You ever go to church on Sunday and then you have people like parking and all this stuff? So I would imagine that in my mind that the parking lot was full and literally people would have to park across the street and all this stuff. And all of a sudden, that started happening with our offices, right? I mean, it was just packed. I mean, all these leaders and all this stuff. And so right around 2010, 2011, we got tremendous momentum. Everyone's doing well. We got BPM Tuesday night, Wednesday night, Thursday night, packed, Saturday morning, packed, Saturday afternoon, packed, and everything's going great, right? And right around 2011, I'm in LA. I'm at my club. I'm at the Grand Havana Room, and I'm having a conversation with a gentleman, right? And we're talking, and he says to me, he says, hey, where do you live? I said, oh, I live down in Corona. He goes, where the hell's that? Right? and I said, well, it's down by Riverside and all this stuff. He says, you come all the way from Corona, all the way up to Beverly Hills. He's like, why don't you live out here? Right? Because you like it here. And I said, I don't know. And I said, oh, I know why I don't live out here. He says, I said, where do you live? He says, I live like maybe 5 minutes from here. And he says, and he says, well, what's stopping you from moving out here? I says, you know what? I don't really know what's stopping me from moving out here. So I came back to Corona. I said, babe, we're moving. Right? And she says, what do you mean we're moving? I said, we're going to LA, right? And then so she's like, why? I says, you know what, babe? I feel like the team is comfortable. Because everything was going great. I mean, my office was right off 71 and Pipeline. I lived right off the 91 in Maine, and everything was great. We were making money. Everything was great. I said, as a team, I'm talking to my wife, I said, as a team, we need to go to the next level. I said, I feel like I have all these leaders in one place, but no one's really rising, right? So I have this conversation with Schleiman. So our lease is up for the Chino office. I said, Schleiman, I'm not renewing the lease, I'm leaving. And he goes, what? What do you mean you leaving, right? Right? And what do you mean you're leaving? I said, I'm going to LA. He's like, what are you going to do in LA? I said, I don't know, I'll figure it out, but I'm going to go to LA, right? So we shut the office down, right? We shut the office down. Oh my God, there was tons of commotion, right? Right? And at the time, as a team, as an entire team, we're doing about 3.6 million a year in premium, right? And I said to, how many of us have ever heard of this saying where it goes, build leaders and teams will come? How many of us have ever heard that, right? Build leaders and teams will come. So at that time, all of these leaders were in one place, right? So there was 3 teams that we were building. We were building, you're building your Tuesday, whatever your weekly BPM is. So for us was Tuesday night. You're building a Tuesday night team, right? You're building your Saturday morning team, right? Because usually Saturday mornings are less people than Tuesday nights. And you're building your Monday morning full-timers. Your full-timers are usually, the people that are in business with you, right? So we shut the office down and we tell the leaders, hey, figure out what you guys are going to do because, you know, the big office is gone, right? So Paul comes up to me, Paul says, you know what, Dan, I have a vision, right? And I want to go to Covina, right? So fast forward, in 2011, we're doing 3.6 million as a team, right? In 2017, we go from 3.6 million in 2017. We're doing 21 million as a team, right? We go from doing 1,000 recruits in 2011. Now we're doing 6,000 recruits a year. So we're pacing 500 recruits a month, right? So what ends up happening? Louise Hay goes to CEO. You guys know that. Steve Hay breaks over $500,000 in cash flow, goes to EMD, right? Paul Ireton goes to EVC, right? He's at $800,000 a year in cash flow. Nate Ireton goes to CEO, right? He's at $650,000 cash flow. Francis Holt goes to CEO. He's at $600,000 in cash flow. Tita Lazan goes to CEO. She's at $450,000 in cash flow. Oh, I forgot to put Schleiman. Schleiman was here. You guys let me forget your leader, man. Schleiman was here, right? Dr. Q goes to EVC, and he breaks $1 million. Jennifer Lee goes to EVC. She's at $700,000 in cash flow. David Lynn goes to EVC, and he's at $700,000 in cash flow. Schleiman goes to CEO. He's at $480,000 in cash flow. Jeff Brookshire hits 2 promotions. He goes to CEO and EVC, and he's at $600,000 in cash flow. Right? We went from the other thing that triggered me is I was in Hawaii, right? That year I was in Hawaii, so I'm having a conversation with Swan. And I said, Swan, I feel like I'm stuck in my business. What do I need to go to the next level, right? So Swan says, Charlie, draw out your hierarchy to me, draw out your business. So I draw out my business, and Swan says to me, he says, Dan, you realize 97% of your business is in one location. If something happens in our location, it affects 97% of your business. And Swan says to me, he says, but what it would require for you to change that, you're too comfortable to change it. You would have to get uncomfortable in order to grow your business, and you're probably not willing to do that, right? So that thought, that seed was already in my mind, right? So we get all these promotions. We go from having one major location, right, which was Chino, to now we have 70 offices all around. Right? So, this morning what I want to talk to you about is that I want you to write this down. If you were going to make an aggressive vertical move. Like an aggressive vertical move. What does aggressive vertical move? Right? Aggressive. Right? Extremely aggressive. So there's three things I want you to consider, right? You have some people that are here that are baby boomers, right? Which means that you were born between 46 and 64. Then you have some of us in here, like myself, who are Generation Xers, right? And then we have some of you that are here that are millennials, right? So if you think about baby boomers, and you think about Generation X, remember in the 80s and the 70s and the 90s, remember when you heard someone, when you would hear that someone would refer to someone as illiterate. Remember that term? Oh man, that person's illiterate. And back then, what that meant, when someone said you were illiterate, what it meant is that you could not read or write. Does that make sense? Yes. In the 21st century, illiteracy means something different now. When someone refers to you as being illiterate now, what it means is that you cannot unlearn something old and learn something new. Does that make sense? Give you an example. So when I left my house this morning, how many of us remember like when they used to have these, in your car they used to have like these map books? You guys remember what that was? Oh, Thomas Guide, right? So when I left my house this morning, right? What if I left my house this morning and in my car I had a Thomas Guide, right? And I opened it up, looked for the city of Chino, and I started to map out how am I going to get from Bel Air all the way to Chino, right? You would look at that and go, wow, this guy is what? Stuck in his era. You guys follow me on that? Yes. Now, I knew Francis told me, hey, you got to be here by 9:15, right? So last night, I went on my Waze app, and I put, I need to be in Chino, California at 9:15, and my phone tells me I need to leave my house by no later than 8:15, and it takes me from my house to here and puts me right on time. Remember in your car when you had to have like, you know, some of us like the speed, right? Remember you would have to have, what they call that thing?
Radar.
The radar detector. Remember the radar, you put it on your dashboard right there, right? Now in my app, right, on my Waze app, it tells me police officer, 2 miles, like behind the thing, right? And I'm like, how the hell does this app know that there's a, and right when I slow down and I'm passing, I see the cop there, right? And I just continue to go, right? There's actually no need for that anymore. Jason's probably like, okay, I got you now. Right? So when you look at that, I want you to consider this, right? I want you to consider that there are certain beliefs that you have, right? There's certain beliefs that you have that is no longer relevant. It's a story that you're telling yourself, that you can actually replace that story with something new and create an aggressive move, right? So let's talk about that, right? All great things come to those who build a big base shop, right? What are those great things? All the prestige, all the awards, all the recognition, all the fun, all the big cash flows, all the big income, come to those who build a big base shop. So if you decided, right, that, you know what, I can't change the past. I can't change what happened the last 5 to 10 years, but I can change what's going to happen the next 5 to 10 years. Does that make sense? So having perspective, because a lot of times what happens is we magnify the things that don't go right in our lives and we minimize our successes, right? So what I want to challenge you with, right, I want to challenge you to start maximizing, right, all the great things that you have in your life right now, all your blessings, right, and minimize the stories that you're telling yourself that are failures, right? Why? Because one brings positive energy, the other one brings negative energy. Make sense? Okay, so let's flip to the next page, right? So as you look at that, there's 7 key things that I'm going to talk about. The first one is personal choice. The second one is personal recruiting action. The third one is personal leadership growth. Fourth is full system implementation. 5 is match up to explode. 6 is conscious, positive, and optimistic attitude, and decision to plant your flag, right? So let's go to the first one. So personal choice. If you're going to make, go to the first one. If you're going to make a decision, right? If you're going to make a decision that, hey, I'm going to do something aggressive, you first have to decide, right? So decision, you look at that, you go, my whys are changing and growing as I do. I'm crystal clear on my vision. I communicate that vision and future to my family and team consistently. I look at what's holding me back from the next level, right? So anytime you're going to make a move, you have to create new reasons. So like for me, when I first got started in the business, my reason, right, for doing the business, the thing that inspired me is I wanted to retire my mom, right? That's no longer a reason that moves me now. Does that make sense? Yes. I retired my mom a long time ago. My mom got a whole bunch of time on her hands. That no longer inspires me to retire my mom. As I said, matter of fact, she's visiting from New York right now, right? So what I have to do now, I have to create new reasons to go do something big, right? So there's a couple of things I want you to consider with that, right? I want you to take inventory, right? Who are the people that you are associating with now, right? Who are the people that you're associating now? And the people that you're associating now, are they bringing value to you and are they making you uncomfortable? Give you an example of what I mean now, right? So this weekend is Memorial Day weekend, right? So I get a chance right around Memorial Day weekend, right around Veterans Day, I get a chance to communicate a lot with my buddies that I used to be in the military with, right? So in 1998, right, I'm learning all about this associations, right? How important associations are, right? So at the time, I'm in the Marine Corps, and I have a certain amount of associations in the military. All my buddies in the military that I grew up with, all of us at E8s, all of us make the same amount of money, all of us have the same amount of challenges, right? And all of us are thinking the same thing. We're going to be in the Marine Corps for 25, 30 years, blah, 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 all this stuff. We're going to get out the Marine Corps and we're either going to become a police officer or I was going to do aircraft firefighting. That was my goal, right? So I start coming to meetings like this. I start learning and improving and growing and getting out in the field and doing all this stuff, right? So in 1999, March of 1999, I start considering the possibility of getting out the Marine Corps, right? So my challenge is I've been in for 13 years, right? I was a drill instructor with the Marines. I carried the colors for the president. I led the Marine Corps Silent Drill Team, which is #1 drill team. I picked up every rank meritoriously. I didn't like being a Marine. I loved being a Marine. You cut me, I bleed green, right? I'm going to do this thing for 30 years. And all my buddies, all my associations were my buddies in the Marine Corps. So now I start associating in the WFG environment, right? So my mentor, right, Ed Milet, is like, hey man, you gotta come financially independent, man, you build your business, boom, all travel the world, all. Start selling me the dream about the possibility of living my dream life if I was willing to get uncomfortable, right? So Milet's like, dude, you gotta get out the Marine Corps. And I'm like, dude. He's like, I said, man, I'm not in the Marine Corps because of money. He goes, Charlie, that's why you ain't got nothing. Right? So all these sayings that I was accustomed to saying, he was challenging those thoughts, right? So finally I start considering it in my mind, right? And there's 2 associations that I have, right? My buddies in the military are telling me, dude, you would be crazy to get out. What the hell are you doing listening to? You got everything for you. You live on base. You got medical, dental. You're only 7 years away from retirement. What the hell are you listening to over there? They're brainwashing you. You're drinking the Kool-Aid. This conversation here. My Master Sergeant Cornelio, I never forget, my Master Sergeant calls me in the office. He says, hey, Gunny, I heard you're thinking about getting out. And I said, well, yeah, I'm thinking about doing this. He says, stop. He didn't even want to hear it. He says, stop. He goes, dreaming is for idiots. You got a good thing going on right here. Why would you walk away from this and all this stuff, right? So my associations here, I got Rich Stalley, Monty Holmes, Swan, Ed, and all of them are like, dude, you'd be crazy to stay in. Do you know what your life's going to look like 5, 10 years from now? All this stuff, right? So who do I listen to? My family and friends, my mom, oh, baby, don't get out. You know, you got a good job. You know, it's tough out here and all this stuff because she cares, right? So my family and my friends are telling me not to. Even my wife at the time's like, you get out, I'm divorcing you. You know, like it was that intense, right? It was that intense. So I go, who do I listen to? Let me share something to you. Your vision is a gift from God. Your vision is a gift from God, right? So I say to myself, I go, this right here, right? I felt, right? How many of us ever heard of when you have a job? How many of us ever heard of job security?
Yes.
Right? So I felt safe. I felt safe in that military environment, right? You know where I felt unsafe at? I felt unsafe here because there was no certainty here. You can make a lot of money here. You could also be broke here. You follow me? So this is more entrepreneurship. I knew nothing about insurance and investments, right? I knew nothing about building your own business, nothing about being an entrepreneur. But here's what I knew. Great company, great system, great compensation. I've got a mentor that's leading me. And then I go, okay, what do I do? So one night I'm in the field. I'm helping a family. And I close business. And I'm living right off the 405 in Jeffrey. I'm living in a 900 square foot apartment. Just visited about 2 weeks ago with my daughter, right? And I'm living in this apartment. I come back from my appointment, and I sit down, and I'm looking at all the paperwork. And I go, man, I just sat down with this family, right? And they were totally excited. They became clients. They gave me referrals, right? They wanted me to stay back and eat. And I go, man, I just made $1,000. I was like, wow, this is freaking awesome. Because I used to work in Riverside. I was working 10 hours a day doing construction, making $10 an hour, and make $100 and be fired up. Now, within a 2-hour session, I made $1,000. I go, man, this is awesome, right? So the next day, my alarm clock rings, right? 5 o'clock in the morning, I get up, boom, put on my shorts, I go to the base. And so I would always take the Marines running every morning. So we're running, we're singing, all right, we're running. And all of a sudden, this thought comes into my head. It goes, Charlie, what are you afraid of? This is your shot. What are you afraid of? And literally, you guys, in the middle of my run, I stopped. I said, I'm done. And I walked away. I walked into the manager's office, the administration office. I said, hey, I want to do my UB 214. I'm getting out. My master sergeant comes running out. He goes, you'll do no such thing, Gunny. Right? You'll do no such thing. I said, what are you talking about, Top? I said, I'm getting out. He's like, you'll do no such thing. He says, look, you're going to wait till the last minute. We're going to have to run upside down to get your paperwork back in. No one gets out after 13 years. I said, Top, I'm getting out. And so he walked back in his office and slammed the door. Right? So I get out. Right? This is March of 1999. Fast forward. 2 weeks ago. Right, those of you that follow me on Instagram, you know where I'm going, right? 2 weeks ago, one of my buddies is having his 50th birthday party at this beautiful resort called Pelican Hill in Newport Coast, right? So my wife and I, we got a 4-bedroom South Coast villa. They have the private villas there, and we're doing a big powwow over there, over 50 people there, all this stuff, right? People from all over the world are flying in for this birthday party. So I pull up to the gate. Right? And the guard comes out, and guess who the guard is? My master sergeant. He's working the gate. And then so I see him, and I'm like, oh my God, that's Top. So I pop my door open and I give him a hug. Oh my God, Top, it's so great to see you. We start talking. He's like, I knew it was you and I saw your name and all this stuff. And he goes, man, how's it going? And I said, man, it's going awesome. So he says to me, he says, so what are you doing these days? I said, Top, I told you what I was doing when I left. And he looked at me, he says, man, I saw it in your eyes. I knew you would do it, right? We had a great conversation. And as I drove off, I pulled my car to the side. And I thought to myself, what if I would have listened to him? Right? No judgment on his part, because you shouldn't judge people, right? Because everyone's operating with what they know. Does that make sense? But here's what I want to challenge you with at this personal decision, right? There are things you know, there are stories you're telling yourself right now that are old stories that are no longer relevant in today's market, today's economy, in today's market. That old story of, hey, go to school, land a good job, work that job for 20 years, and one day you'll be able to retire in your golden years, is a false story, is no longer relevant. The old story of working for 30 years, saving 10% of what you make, so one day, maybe if everything goes right, you'll have them, that's an old story, right? Which is why I love millennials. Millennials, they challenge thinking, they challenge beliefs. How many of us have little kids? Right? Give you an example. When I grew up, right, if I said to my mom, if my mom told me something and I said, why? That is a form of disrespect. Does that make sense? Why? Because I told you to. That's why. That's how my parents answered me, right? In today's world, I have a 4-year-old, a 7-year-old, a 9-year-old. My kids ask me why all the time. Not because it's a form of disrespect, because they seek to understand. They're actually very, very bright. I actually learn things from my son. Right? My son would go, why, Dad? I go, well, because half the time I don't know, right? Because he's like, well, Dad, you know you can do this, this, and you can? He goes, yeah, let me show you. Boom, 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 and he showed me. And I go, oh my God, this kid actually taught me something, right? So you must remain open. You must remain open to change. As the times are changing, you have to change. You have to look at what is some of the beliefs that you have right now. You must ask yourself, is this true? I'll give you an example. I'll tell you a story, give you an example, right? So there's a story. It's this little girl. She's watching her mom cook, and it's right around Thanksgiving. So the mom takes a ham and she cuts the end of the ham. She puts it in a pot, right? And she's thinking, why did Mom cut the end of the ham and put it in the pot? Didn't make sense to her. So she goes to Mom. She goes, Mom, why did you cut the end of the ham and put it in the pot before you cooked it? Mom said, I don't know. That's what my mother always do. Go ask your grandmother. She's in the other room. So she goes to Grandma. She said, Grandma, I saw Mom cutting the ham. She cut the end of the ham. She put it in the pot. And I asked her why. She told me she didn't know. She said, you would know. And her grandmother said, I don't know. Go ask your great-grandmother. She's in the other room. I learned it from her. So she goes to great-grandmother. She said, great-grandmother tells her the story. Great-grandmother goes, oh, baby. Back in the day, I had this little pot. And the only way we could fit the ham, we had to cut it off and put it in there. And you guys know where I'm going with this, right? So a lot of times, we do things and we never ask why. I'll give you an example. What I love about the millennials, how many of us ever heard the story? How many of us ever heard this? That's a great problem to have. Right? Like, who the hell said that? And why do we repeat it? One day someone questioned that. And they says, actually, that's a great problem to fix. Right? It's a great problem. It's not a great problem to have. It's a great problem to fix. Right? So one of the things I used to say in business, I used to say, man, my biggest problem is I don't have enough qualified licensed agents to handle the volume that I have coming in. I go, one day I said, how does that serve me to say that? Right? That's actually a great problem to fix. So how do we fix? Because we have a fluctuation of people coming in, right? We need great trainers to train those people, so it's actually a great problem to fix. Now, growing up in New York, right, everybody's always like, the theme is, when you're in Manhattan, if you're waiting for a cab, like, you're going to wait for a long time. And it's always been like that in New York, right? And one day someone says, you know what, I think it's crazy that I want to go somewhere, and I got to call a cab, and I got to wait all this time to wait for a cab. I think that's crazy. So someone says, you know what, I bet there's a lot of people that have that same problem. Let me create a solution for it. And then boom, Uber came out. You follow me on that? So we went from the communication age to now we are in the imagination age. Right? So in the imagination age, right, now it's about creating ideas that solve the challenges of the masses. Right? One of the things that Albert Einstein says imagination is more powerful than knowledge. Right? So you look at that and you go, you know what? I got to reinvent myself. Right? Imagine, like, I just got for my wife, I just got the new iPhone 7. Right? The big one, iPhone 7 and all this stuff. Remember the original iPhone that came out? What year was that? You guys know? 10 years, 15, 20 years ago? When was it? About 2006, 11 years ago, the first iPhone. If you take out the first iPhone that came out, that iPhone could still make a phone call, right? But if you put that iPhone next to the new one, right, it's very dated. So some of us are still operating with an old program that has not been updated. As a reboot, right? So what happens when we're operating with an old program? We get poor results. Because the times have changed, the conditions are different, but what has not changed, what has not grown, is how we think and the stories that we're telling ourselves. Right? So I want to challenge you. And I'm going to give you some ideas. Go to the next page. Right? So now, personal recruiting action. Some of us are sitting here, we go, well, Dan, I'm just not a good recruiter. Or I'm just not a good producer. Is that true or false? Or is that a story that you created for yourself based on something that was a lie? Because when you were born, the doctor didn't hang you upside down, slap you on the butt and said, this one doesn't know how to recruit. You follow me? So we're in a recruiting season now. Why? Because every single person's looking for an opportunity. I was doing a recruiting interview the other day. And the guy says to me at the end, he goes, well, Dan, I don't know if this is for me. I said, well, I don't know if it's for you either. But let me ask you a question. Let's say it's not for you. What exactly are you going to do? Because you're talking like you got a bunch of options. What are you going to do? You're going to go real estate? Good timing. You're going to mortgage business? Great timing. You're going to go into debt business? Ha! You're going to go health insurance business? Ha! You're going to find a job? Get in line. What exactly are you going to go do? And he stopped and he thought about it. And he says, actually, you're actually right. I said, I'm sitting here, I'm showing you how you can go make a six-figure income. Actually, do you know the stats? The IRS just put out a publication. 93% of the population makes less than 100 grand a year. 50% of that 93% makes less than $28,000 a year. 93%. The Census Bureau just did a report. They said 73.8% of Americans retire in poverty with less than $10,000 a year to live on, less than $833 a month. And you're sitting here wondering, oh, I don't know anybody. I don't have anybody to recruit. What world are you living in? 9 out of 10 people that you come in contact with they're dissatisfied. If you ask them, if I was to talk to you about a serious opportunity, would you listen? The answer is yes. You just have to show them 3 things. 1, you got to show them a credible company. 2, you got to show them a viable product with a crusade. 3, you got to show them an opportunity where they can be entrepreneurs because they don't want to. So I'm doing a big BPM, right? Big business presentation meeting. And there's like 80 guests in there, right? So one of the guys sitting up front, really sharp guy, And I bring all the SMDs at the end so they could do the interviews. And the guy goes, hey, I need to meet with you. I got to meet with you. I got to interview with you. I said, okay, come to my office tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock. So the guy comes to my office the next morning at 9 o'clock. He's totally different. And he says to me, I said, so what intrigued you about the opportunity? He's like, you know, yes, last night I got really excited when you were talking, but I went back home, I looked on the internet, and I saw something that really dissatisfied me, and I got some questions, and I don't think this is an opportunity for me. And I said, well, hold on. I said, hold on for a second. So I pulled up my phone. I said, let me get your first and last name. So he gave me his first and last name. I pulled it up on Google, and I looked him up. And I went, whoa. And he says, what? I said, I just pulled you up. And he says, and? I said, there's nothing on you on the internet. He goes, well, that's good. I said, is it? I said, let me ask you a question. I said, let's pull up Martin Luther King. Pulled up Martin Luther King. I said, people have an opinion on Martin Luther King. Some people loved him. Some people hated Martin Luther King. Let's pull up John F. Kennedy. Some people loved John F. Kennedy, some people hated him. Let's pull up Obama. Some people loved him, some people hated him. Let's pull up Trump. A lot of people hate him. Some people love him, right? Let's pull up Wells Fargo. I said to him, I said, look, let me explain something to you. The only reason that there's nothing about you on the internet is because you have not done anything significant. I said, so if we're going to talk about what's on the internet, I don't want to waste my time. Let me explain to you why. Because our company is not on trial. We are looking for people that are looking for us. I'm not in a convincing business. I convey the message. Why? Because the market is shifted. I don't need him. He needs me. So at the end of the conversation, I said, look, you want to make $500,000 a year, right? You want to make $500,000 a year. Here's what it takes. Me deciding that I'm going to work with you. Me deciding that I'm going to work with you. Why? Because I got the platform, we've got the products, we've got the comp, we've got the leadership, we've got the system, and we got the environment. So it's not you deciding whether you want to do this or not. It's me deciding whether I'm going to work with you or not. He said, absolutely, boom, we gave, and he got started with us. I tap-rooted him 7 deep correct. Now here's the deal. You have to start playing offense in your business. You got to stop playing defense. You're looking for people that are looking for you, right? So if you have that belief, I'll give you an example. Marlette and I talking, this was about 2 months ago. Marlette and I talking, and he said, Charlie, how you feeling right now? I was like, dude, because I'm in the office in Beverly Hills. He says, what's the next move in your business, Charlie? I said, dude, I got to find me a rabbit. I got to find me a rabbit. I was like, dude, everybody's right around the same place. Everybody's idling. Everybody's comfortable. I need a rabbit. I need someone that's going to come in and disrupt my base shop. If you have a guess, get your guess, right? I need someone that's going to come and disrupt my base shop, right? So there's something that I teach that goes about specific recruiting. I want you to write this down. To be terrific, you must be specific. Spend about 30 seconds with your guests, get the interview, and let them go home. Because you're going to miss big stuff, right? There's something called specific recruiting. If you learn this and you apply it, it's going to make your job very easy, right? Now, how many of us ever gone hunting before? Right? If you're hunting, let's say it's deer season, right? If you're hunting for a deer, you probably need to know what a deer looks like. Does that make sense? Yes. Because it'd be crazy if you're pointing at a rabbit thinking that it's a deer. Does that make sense? So what is it that you're looking for? If you had the perfect recruit, what is it that you're looking for? Like, specifically, right? So I want someone preferably that's married, right? They have kids. They own a home. They have an income, right? They're coachable and teachable, both. They're competitive. they have credibility in their market. They have credibility in their market. And for me, one of the things that's really big for me is they're not clingy. What do I mean by not clingy? They're self-motivated, self-financing, right? They have a high, they're self-confident, high self-confidence, high self-esteem. I'm talking to Marlette about this. And I said, that couple is somewhere looking for me and I need to find them. Right? So literally, a week later, Marlette sends me a snapshot. He's like, dude, because we've done this quite a few times. He goes, dude, you're not going to believe this. I just got an email from a guy in Washington State, in Spokane, Washington, that literally 20 minutes from his house in Lake House, saw his podcast, reached out to him, right? Reached out to him and said, hey, I saw your podcast. I heard you speaking that you had mentored this Marine. I looked up at all your videos online. I looked at all his videos on YouTube, and I want to know, can you introduce me to him? Marlette sends me this snapshot, right? Right after I had this conversation with him. And so I see the email. I looked at the number. I picked up the number, and I made a call. I said, hey, this is Dan Charlier. And he says, oh my God, Dan Charlier, I've heard so much about you, blah, blah, I saw you all your videos, da, 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 da. And he's fired up online, right? He's fired up on the phone. I go, look, I don't have a lot of time. I'm getting ready to go to Cuba. I'll be back in a week. I want you to call my assistant. I want you to fly out to LA, come spend 2 days with me, and I'll teach you the business in 2 days. Right? Here's her number, boom, 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 boom. And my wife and I would go to Cuba, go celebrate my birthday in Cuba. We're having a blast. Come back from Cuba. I'm talking to Chris. Chris goes, hey, you know that guy that you talked to? He's flying in on Wednesday night. So he flies in on Thursday. He spends Thursday, Friday, Saturday with me and flies back Saturday, right? So I go over, I go, look, this is how you make a phone call, right? Because he had the business format system. He takes a lot of initiative, read everything in the business format system, looked at all the videos and all of the stuff, right? So I said, this is how you make a phone call. Boom, I showed him. He took his iPhone and he recorded me. Him and his girlfriend, him and his Tiffany. He recorded me. I said, this is how you do a one-on-one. I went over the flip chart. This is how you close. He recorded it. This is how you do a kitchen table. He recorded it, right? This is the fast start, right? These are the 8 filters, filters 5 through 8. This is where the breakdown is. This is how you get a top 25. This is how you qualify. Hot market, references, boom, he records everything. And I said to him, right before he left, I said, look, I said, Ed, I said, I've been doing this for 17 years, right? And I've always challenged. So out of 17 years, I never, ever, ever, ever had anyone in my base shop do this one thing that I'm getting ready to challenge you with, and I think you're the guy that can do it. And he goes, okay, what it is? I said, I want to challenge you to do 25 recruits, 25 apps, your first 30 days. And here's how I'm going to help you. I introduced some couple field trainers. I said, we've got access to the internet now, so you have go-to meetings, so you can do one-on-ones, field training, all kinds of stuff on the internet, right? And he says to me, he says, Charlier, I will be the first one that does it. And I said to him, I says, look, here's one thing about me. I don't look at what you say, I watch what you do. Right? So that was March 11th. From March 11th to April 11th, he did 30 recruits, 30 apps, in 30 days, went from training associate straight to SMD. This month, as an SMD this month, he's already got 100,000 points submitted and over 25 recruits. Because the old story of it takes a year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years to get to SMD to get 100,000 is an old story. No longer works. Why? Because you have the caliber of people that you can attract in our model now are different, right? Because my challenge was when I got started, I never made more than $3,000 a month. So my biggest challenge was Marlette had to get me to believe that I could make $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 a month. I was like, no one I know makes $10,000, $15,000, $20,000. So I had a belief issue, right? But I had a burning desire. Now in the marketplace, you've got people that are already making $20,000, $30,000, $40,000, $50,000, $100,000 a month. right? So they already know that they can do that. They just want to know, hey, can I do that here? So they already have. Now for them, their challenge is, do they still have a burning desire to roll up their sleeves and go build a business, right? So now you can recruit in all markets. When I got started in a business, we used something called greenies. I mean, greenies were people that knew nothing about the industry. Well, now, people that are in the insurance industry, they're interested in a model. People that are security, they're interested in a model. All different markets, all different lawyers, attorneys, you name them, they're interested. So I'm doing a recruiting appointment, and it's over the internet. It's a guy, because our team is expanding in Hawaii. So I told our team, I says, look, I'm looking for a leader that has self-confidence, high self-esteem, that has credibility, boom, all this stuff in Hawaii, because we want to expand in Hawaii. So one of the teammates knew this really sharp guy in Hawaii, got him on the phone with me, got him on the internet. We do a go-to meeting, right? So I'm doing an entire business presentation meeting. We get to the end. I go over comp, and the guy says to me, he says, Dan, I love the model. I love what you guys do. I love the crusade. The comp is unbelievable. He said, but my challenge is I'm running 6 companies, and I don't have any time. I said, wow. I said, how old are you? He said, I'm 60 years old. I said, you're running 6 companies? He says, yeah. I said, let me ask you a question. Who has their phone out with them? Take out your calculator. On your phone. Just one person. You. Right? So I said, can I ask you a couple of questions? He says, yes. I said, running these 6 companies, you have your calculator out? I said, running these 6 companies, how many hours a day are you spending running these 6 companies? He said 10 hours a day. I said, okay, great. I said, I want you to take out your calculator. I want to go through these numbers with you, right? I said, how many days a week are you working? He says 6 days a week, right? So I said, so you're working 60 hours a week, is that correct? I said, yeah. I said, wow, no wonder you don't have any time. You're working a lot of hours. I said, so that's 240 hours. That's 240 hours a month that you're investing in these 6 companies. I said, let me ask you a question. If you don't mind me asking, which most people don't mind, they only mind when they don't make any money. I said, what are you making? What are you netting on a monthly basis? He said, I'm netting $8,000 on a monthly basis. I said, $8,000? He says, yeah. I said, okay, here's what I want you to do. I want you to divide 240 into 8,000 and tell me what you get. What do you get? Come on, you got to anticipate a little bit. Okay, 33. So right now, your time is worth $33 an hour. Is that correct? He says, yes. I said, what I just showed you, I showed you on the comp, if you help 4 families a month, we'll pay you $4,000. We're paying you $4,000 to help 4 families a month. I said, now, each family you're spending 2 hours with, that's 8 hours worth of work, 8 divided into 4,000, that's $500 an hour. So what I want to do is, I want to repeat back what you said to me. What you said to me is, Dan, I'm so busy making $33 an hour that I don't have time to make $500 an hour. And he says, oh my God, I've never thought about it like that before. I said, neither did I. Because when I was in the Marine Corps, I was even worse. When I was in the Marine Corps, I was putting in 70 hours a week. I was putting in 70 hours a week. Times 4, that's 280 hours. Right? And I was making $3 grand a month. Right? What is that? $10 an hour. $10 an hour. So my left said to me, said, Charlier, now here's where I was stuck. I didn't believe that I could do this. You follow me? I didn't believe I could do this. But I had a leader that believed in me, that kept stretching my thinking, that said, stretching my vision, that says, yes, you can. Yes, you can. You ever seen, like, most of you that have kids, right? You ever teach your kids how to ride a bike? Right? Where you hold on to the back of the bike, and you go, man, you can do it, you can do it, you can do it, you can do it. You let go, let go, let go, and they're like, they still think you're holding on, they still think you're holding on, and they look back, and they don't see you there, boom, and they fall. Right? But you repeat the process over and over again as part of our business, right? So now, what if your belief in recruiting was high right now? What if you believe there's so many people out there looking for you right now? How does that serve your business? So your belief in recruiting has to change, right? Recruiting is helping. You understand that? I had a guy the other day. He showed up at my house. I'm in front of the house. I'm smoking a cigar. He showed up. My wife always has these Amazon boxes coming in the house. Every day something's coming at the house, right? So he shows up, and I start talking to him. He can hardly speak English. He just came here from Iran, right? And I said to him, I said, man, are you planning to do this the rest of your life? He said, absolutely not. I said, are you open to an opportunity? He said, actually, I am. He said, but my English is really bad. And I told him, I said, I got to tell you about one of the leaders in our company. His name is Cash. Right? Cash came here from Iran 7 years ago, didn't know how to speak English, got recruited in WFG. Now he has over 400 people on his team, and he makes over $600,000 a year. Right? So I use stories, right, that people can connect with where they can see themselves achieving that. From a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the highest, what is your belief about recruiting? Because we show up here on a Saturday, you guys got 8 guests here. Here's what I know. You're not focused on recruiting. So whatever story you're telling yourself, it's a false story. You follow me? Because all three generations are dissatisfied. Most people outside, they look like they're fine, but inside they're dying. You follow me on that? Go on to the next page. Next page is this, right? Personal leadership growth. What are you doing to personally grow? Personally improve. What books are you reading? What CDs are you listening to? What audios are you listening to, right? Let's think big and keep it simple. Are you rereading your books for new nuggets? I pay attention to the association. Listen, I have that challenge me. I'm accountable, believe in, and help others, leaders to grow, right? What are your associations? What are the 4 or 5 people that you spend time with, right? The people that I spend time with, what I make a year, they make a month. They make a month. Right? So I'm consistently putting myself in a position, right? In a position where I'm uncomfortable. Right? My daughter was here a couple weeks ago, and so we had a daddy and daughter day. I said, "What do you want to do today, babe? Anything you want to do?" She said, "Dad, I want to go see where we used to live." I said, "Okay, cool, right?" So I haven't been there in years. So I go all the way, take the 405, go all the way. God, I haven't been in traffic in a long time, right? Travel all the way back, right? So I get on 405 in Jeffrey, right? And I go to Northridge Apartments where I used to live. So we get out the car, and apartment 904. My entire life was in this little apartment that was 900 square feet. I was telling my daughter, I was like, I knocked on the door, and they came to the door, and I said, "Hey, my name's Dan Charlie," all this stuff. So I got them to give me a tour of the house, and it was like, it was so crazy, right? Because walking in, I was like, oh my God, like I walk in, I take 1, 2 steps, make 1 step, and I'm in the kitchen, right? The sink is right here, the fridge is right here. And all you could do is the kitchen, maybe I could go like this, take 1, 2, I'm in the fridge, turn around, 1, 2, I'm in the sink, right? I walk out the kitchen, and I walk into the living room. The living room is about this small. I was like, oh my God. I walk down the hallway, I look at the bathroom, the bathroom is like the size of my closet. Like the sink's right here, the toilet's right here, and the shower's right here. I was like, wow, right? Then I walk out of there, and I walked in my bedroom, I was like, oh my God. Literally in my mind, I remember it bigger. Now, how many of us ever went back to your public school, like when you were a kid, and you go, wow, this is so small, right? But when you remember it as a kid, you're like, this is huge, right? And I walked out and I said to my daughter, I said, babe, I said, when we lived here, what I used to make a year, I make a week now. Isn't that crazy how things change? Right? So I want you to consider, who are you associating with? And are those associations, are they going to get you uncomfortable? Right? Are they going to get you uncomfortable? for your vision. I've been saying something for a long time, right? I've been saying that when I'm talking about association. About 3 weeks ago, I'm at an event. I'm at a nonprofit event. It's my wife and I, and we're at this event in Los Angeles, right? And around me at this event, I've got Magic Johnson, his wife Cookie, and his son, right? His son's like 6'6", right? Then I have Jay-Z, Beyonce, right? And then just an entourage of people. And I'm sitting there, right? I'm sitting there. Those of you that follow me, you see me. I take a picture and post it. Right? I'm sitting there with my wife. I'm thinking to myself, wow. Like, look at the people that we're surrounded with, right? Like just the associations of people that, we have actual relationships with. We talk to, right? And I think to myself, I asked Jay, I said, Jay, let me ask you a question. If you went back 20 years ago, did you ever imagine in your wildest imagination that you'd be where you're at right now? You know what he said to me? He says, Dan, no, I didn't see it. He says, but what I did was, I always changed my pedigree. I said, what do you mean by that? Right? He says, I was always conscious of the people that I surrounded myself with. He says, as I started changing my pedigree, as I started changing my association, there were a lot of associations that I had that was uncomfortable. He said, this is the exact reason me and my business partner, Damon Dash, right? This is the exact reason why we broke up as partners. Because I was associating different. Damon wanted to keep it real. He's like, no, man, we're street guys. We got to keep it real. We got to boom, 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 boom. He's like, hey, he said to me, and in my music, my fans were telling me, you've changed. You're not the same anymore. He said to me, Dan, when I was making those musics, the circumstances in my life was different. And he says, of course I changed. He says, life is about progressing. Life is about evolving. I'm not supposed to stay the same. But these guys right here wanted to stay the same. They wanted to keep it real. They wanted to stay the same. They didn't want to evolve. So I said, I changed my story. Instead of allowing that to bother me, I said, hey, if you want to hear the old Jay, buy my old album. Does that make sense? Because I'm evolved now, and my records are all over, and look at the difference in net worth now. Now he's almost, he's a billionaire when you count him and Beyonce, right? So you look at it in our business. You look at it for you right now. How is that relevant to you? Are you comfortable in the associations that you're having right now? Or are you telling yourself a story how you're keeping it real, right, and you're not evolving? Make sense? So when my buddies in the military, they say, man, Charlier, you ain't the same anymore. You're not the same guy we remember. I go, thank you. That's a compliment. Does that make sense? It's not a negative. It's a compliment. I'm not supposed to stay the same, right? So personal leadership growth, what are you doing to personally improve personal growth? Next. Right? Full system of implementation. From prospecting, the approach to contact, the presentation, the follow-up, the startup, the duplication. Are you reading the business format system? Are you a student of the system? Go next. Right? Match up to explode. You got to match up. Right? You got to match up. You got to know, hey, there's certain things that I might not be good at, but someone else is good at. Right? If someone else is great at the kitchen table, hey, you don't have to be great at the kitchen table. Match up. Go out with a field trainer that's great across the kitchen table. Someone else is great at recruiting. Go out with someone that's great at recruiting, right? And you can learn 1 hour in the field more than powerful 10 hours in the classroom. You got to match up. Don't expect to be the best at everything. Make sense? Go next one. Next one is, you got to be positive and optimistic. No one wants to be around a dull, disillusioned crybaby, right? You got to look at things from a positive standpoint. Let me give you something that puts everything in perspective, right? How many of us ever have these days where we call it like a bad day? Like maybe you have some negative momentum, you got some stuff going on, all this stuff. How many of us ever, like all of us, right? Okay. So one of the exercises that I do on a daily basis, I'm a big meditator, right? So in the morning I meditate on my intentions, right? I meditate on my intentions. I silence my mind in the first 10 to 15 minutes, right? I'm always at the right place at the right time. I meet the right person. So I meditate quite a bit. In the evening, my meditation is about the things that I'm grateful for, right? So there's a lot of blessings that we have in our lives, right? There's a lot of blessings we have in our lives, but we're so accustomed to having it that we take it for granted, right? The fact that you can get up and walk this morning. For you, that might not be a big deal, but for someone else, that's a dream. I remember reading Christopher Lee's book, and he was sitting, this is before he passed away, he was sitting at a restaurant, and he was having a meal, and he saw this guy stand up and go use the bathroom. And he asked himself, he said this in his book, he asked himself, I wonder if that guy knows how lucky he is that he needed to go to the bathroom, that he could actually stand up and walk to the bathroom and use the bathroom himself. Right? So here's my point. My point is, your ability to put perspective gives you a lot of power. Man, I'm so grateful that I have healthy kids. I've seen parents that their kids are not healthy. Jeez Louise, I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful that I've got a loving wife. I'm grateful that I've got great business partners. I'm grateful for my health. So there's so many things for you to be grateful for, right? Now, what happens when you operate from that space? When you operate from that space, right, your energy, right, people look at you and they go, wow, this guy's having fun. The business looks easy, right? But if you're constantly thinking about what you're not, you're constantly thinking about what you don't have. By the way, you guys, you get caught in the chase, it never stops. Never stop. You go, well, I'll be happy when I hit SMD. You hit SMD, you're like, well, I'll be happy when I hit 100,000. You get 100, well, I'll be happy when I make 250. Well, I'll be happy when I make $500,000. It never stops. There's a guy in my neighborhood, you guys. He built a $500 million house. $500 million. The whole top of the hill. I'm going, when does it stop? You follow me? The guy, I look at myself like I'm making $1.4 million, and I'm like, man, I gotta get to $1 million a month. Like, it never stops. Like, if you would have told me in '98, hey, let me show you what your life is gonna look like 15 years from now, I would have been like, that's me? Oh my God. Man, I'll be so excited, man, I can't wait to get there. And then you get there, and then you're not happy there. Then you're like, I need to go to another destination. Here's the point that I'm making. Enjoy the process. Enjoy the process. Man, I might not be where I want to be, but I ain't where I used to be. Does that make sense? And I got a dream, and I got a vision. I'm excited. I wake up every day, and I've got purpose. Right? So enjoy where you're at. It doesn't mean that you have to conform to where you're at. Enjoy where you're at. Why? Because you become more attractive. Because people look at you and go, wow, I want to do what this guy's doing because he's enjoying himself, he's having fun. So when you're going across the kitchen table, have fun. Don't put all this pressure on yourself. Man, I gotta close, I gotta close, I gotta close, I gotta close, I gotta close. That's the very reason why you don't close. You realize that. You're recruiting. Man, I gotta recruit this person, I gotta recruit this person. This person's gonna change my career. That's the very reason that person doesn't join you. See, whenever I'm across the kitchen table, I operate from a neutral position. I want to help you, provided that you want to help yourself. When I'm recruiting, the reason why I'm very high recruiting, I want to introduce you to the business, provided that you're looking for a business. Because you might not be looking for something. You might be happy where you're at, and you happy being average. No judgment on who do you know? Who do you know that's looking for me? You guys follow me on that? So you got to be conscious, positive, optimistic. What if you're a CEO, right? Is Chief Encouraging Officer. What if everyone that came in contact with you felt great? What if everyone that came in contact with you, you had something positive to say to them about? Right? Now, everyone that comes in contact, they go, I like the way I feel when I'm around Hope. Does that make sense? Because you're seeing the best in people. You got to do that, right? Next one. Right? You got to plant your flag. So since 2009 to now, I've never, ever, 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 ever done anything but this that brings a check to my house. Plant my flag. Right? So you can run around, you can do a whole bunch of stuff. Can you imagine? I'm in LA. Everybody in LA got a deal. Everybody in LA got an idea, but nobody ain't got no money. Right? Oh man, you can make this real quick. I'm not trying to make anything quick. I want to build something solid. The number one rule in business, you guys, is to stay in business. So you got to do your homework. I already know this is the number one business platform, bar none. I've done my homework. I already know where I got. So in every conversation, someone is recruiting someone if you're not sold out on what it is that you're doing. I was talking the other day. The guy says to me, what are you doing? I'm in World Financial Review. He goes, oh. I said, oh what? Because you're talking to the right guy right now. I said, oh what? He's like, well, I heard what? And he says, well, I heard this. From who? Oh, well, this guy, is he successful? No. I said, okay, well, you're talking to me. I've been here for 18 years. Let's sit down and talk. You know how I recruit? When I first moved to Beverly Hills, right? Here's the story. So my first recruiting appointment is a real estate broker in Beverly Hills, right? African-American guy. He says to me, he says, hey man, you know where you're at? I said, yeah, I'm in Beverly Hills. He says, you realize that Beverly Hills is predominantly Jewish and Persian. I said, yes. And he says, you realize that they don't do business with blacks. I says, really? I didn't know that. And I reached over, I shook his hand, and I said, you just met the first person they're going to do business with. Because that's his story, not mine. Right? Because if I adapt that story, how am I going to build a business? You guys follow me on that? So these are called embedded beliefs. That people say things to you, and all of a sudden, you start repeating what someone says, and it's not factual. Now my entire team in Beverly Hills is Persian and Jewish. Isn't that crazy how that happens? Right? So you got to pay attention to that. That's all part of personally improving, right? My first appointment, remember I talked about specific recruiting, right? So I decided I'm going to build a base shop in Beverly Hills. I said, who am I looking for? I said, I'm looking for a married couple that's Jewish, right? They've got credibility in the marketplace in Beverly Hills, right? They're married, they have kids, they own a home, they have a high income, and they're in the insurance business. Right? They're general agents in the insurance business. Because I know our platform now attracts everyone, right? So I met this guy, his name was David, right? David and I became friends. He's a big real estate investor. I said, David, I need your help. He's like, Dan, what can I do to help you? I says, look, I decided I'm going to start a team here, and here's what I'm looking for. Do you know anybody that fits this situation? He's like, no, I don't. But my brother is a teacher at the Kabbalah Center. I said, Kabbalah Center, what's that? She said, oh, he tells me all about it. I said, okay, can you get your brother to come see me? He says, absolutely, right? His brother's name is David, right? No, is it? Michael, right? His brother's name is Michael. So Michael comes to see me, right? And I start going over the presentation. Michael puts his hand on the presentation. He says, listen, my friend, you don't have to tell me about the company. I already know that I can trust you. My brother told me everything about you. And when you speak, you have 3 lines in your forehead, and that tells me that you're a person that I can trust on a spiritual level, right? I said, okay, Michael, here's what I need. I'm looking for a married couple. They have kids. They own a home. They're in the insurance business. They make in excess of $400,000 or $500,000 a year. That's in a community that's dissatisfied. Do you know? Michael goes, no, I don't, but let me think about it. He gets in his car. 20 minutes later, he calls me. He's like, Dan. I go, yeah, Michael. And he says, his last name is Sumac. I said, yeah, Michael. He says, I just thought about it. I know exactly who you need to meet. There's a couple at the Kabbalah Center. Their name is Joseph and Batshama, right? I said, Michael, do you have credibility with them? Can you get them to come see me, right? He said, absolutely. Joseph and Batshama comes to meet me, right? So they come to meet me. They have no idea it's WFG Transparent. They have no idea. They walked into the office and they saw World Financial Group, and Batshama goes, oh my God, I wish I would have known this was World Financial Group when it came. I said, oh my God, I'm so sorry to hear that. Why? And she said, well, you know, I was in this business. It's not for me. You know, they can have meetings, conventions, and you guys deal with the 80% of the population, middle class. We're more big clients. We do this, we do that, we do this, we do that. And I said, wow, I'm so sorry that's been your experience. And I said, you know, that's her story that she's saying, right? I said, well, that's not my story. My story is totally different. I said, you can be part of a great company and have bad leadership and have a horrible experience. And you can also be not in a great company and have great leadership and have an incredible experience. I said, let me tell you what my experience has been. Right? So I walked through my story. I pulled up all my numbers. I was very transparent. I showed her my numbers. Right? I showed her my cash flow. I said, this is my business. I just expanded in Beverly Hills, and here's what I'm looking for. I'm going to build a huge team in Beverly Hills, and I'm looking for some business partners. I said, let me ask you guys a question. Right? You have a family. He says, yeah. How many kids? 7 kids. I said, wow, you guys have 7 kids. I said, how often do you travel with your kids? How often do you spend time? And they both got quiet. They said, oh, we don't spend that much time with the kids. I go, why? They're always selling. Right? They're always selling. Then they start telling me the real deal about them. And then after having a conversation, we met 3 times. They quit what they were doing and they came full time. Right? And then Batshama started putting me in front of 5, 6, 7 people a day, and that's how I built the entire team. Right? Specific recruiting. You can do the same thing here. You just have to be clear what you're looking for. And you have to have the right beliefs. Next one. Pretty cool? Okay. Talk about this. Look at it. From convention last year to now, we've had 8 executive promotions in our team. Right? So the team has a tremendous amount of momentum right now. We're looking for the next leaders. I want you to listen to me on this, because I've been saying this for a while. The biggest leaders in WFG are being recruited right now. Some of them are in WFG right now. They're about to evolve. The last 17 years has gotten me and my wife ready for the next 10. Does that make sense? So, if the biggest leaders in WFG right now are being recruited right now, what if they were recruited on your team? What would that look like? Because now it's recruiting season. So you have individuals from all different markets now that are looking for an opportunity. So you must create a new story that validates where you're going to be the next 5 to 10 years. Make sense? So you look, I'll give you an example. You look at Tita Lazan. When Tita got started here, here's what her story was. Dan, I don't have time. I'm working 3 shifts at the hospital. I'm 56 years old, Dan. I'm old. By the way, you're in your 40s and 50s, 60s, that's no longer considered old. That's an old story that you're telling yourself. Why? People are living a lot longer. Right? 40 to 60 is when you acquire your wealth. 50 to 70 are your most influential years. So if you're 60, you're saying, I'm feeling old. No, it's not that you're feeling old. Your associations are old. You're hanging around a bunch of people. Like, that's why I think the worst thing that you can do is go into one of these old retirement homes. Because now you're associated with a bunch of people. Like, I just had this happen the other day, right? So I go see a chiropractor. I go see a chiropractor like twice a week. He's like a health spiritual chiropractor, right? So I was like working out. And I said to him, I said, well, I got to be careful what I do because my knees, because I used to run a lot in the Marine Corps, my knees get really sore and all of this stuff. Right? So I got to be careful with my knees. And he says, actually, Dan, you don't have to be careful with your knees. You know why your knees hurt? Because my story was, I used to run a lot, and my cartilage, all this stuff, right? And he says, no, that's not why. He goes, when you go to the gym, you don't work out your legs. That's why your knees hurt. I go, well, what do you mean? He's like, Dan, you spend majority of the time working your upper body. He says, you don't walk on your hands, bro. You walk on your feet. So your knees are supporting your big-ass body, and you don't work your legs. He says, start freaking working your legs, and your knees will stop hurting. I was like, oh, yeah, that's actually true. So now I go to the gym, I start working on my damn legs. But it was an old story. It was a story that I was telling myself that was not true. You follow me? So because it was not true, I wasn't working out my legs. So every time I do a little bit of something, my knees hurt. I go, oh, my knees hurt because when I was in the Marine Corps, I used to run a lot. And that story, he's like, that story's false. And I went, oh, wow. Right? So you think about that. Tita's story was, she's too old. Her English is broken. No one would understand her. She's in her late 50s. She's old, and she doesn't have time. That's why she can't do the business, right? So guess what? She goes to convention. She sees someone that's Filipino, that's a woman, that's in her 50s, that's making $250,000 a year, that can hardly speak English. And she goes, well, wait a minute. If she can do it, so can I. So she changes her story. All she did was change her story. She comes out of convention, she becomes SMD, she qualifies for the elite trip in Hawaii, she goes over $100,000 a year, and now she makes it over $500,000 a year. Never sold a policy. Isn't that crazy? The things that happen when you change your story? Right, so you got all these leaders doing great things, right? We're looking for the next wave. And then you get a chance to do a lot of cool stuff. That's why you want to build a big shop, right? You get a chance to do a lot of cool stuff. This is Ed and Christiana and myself and my wife. We're having dinner in Newport Coast at the Pelican Hill. Man, you know, that night when we were having dinner, I told Christiana, I said, Christiana, I'm so grateful, man. Because Christiana used to work Christiana, my ex-wife, used to work the front desk of Consumer Portfolio Services. Christiana was the one that said, let me get your husband's name and number, and I'll have my husband give him a call. I said, Christiana, if you never get my number and give it to Ed, I never see these little defining factors, right? Understand, you have the power to do that on a daily basis. You have the power to give someone an opportunity, right? All right, you do this right here. Where were we at? We were at the Hofburg Palace. You guys ever heard the Hofburg Palace? Right? We're in the Hofburg Palace. WFG blocked out the whole right side of the Hofburg Palace, right? And the top 300 leaders is Christopher, Michelle, Paul and Mary Millington, my wife and Christine, Dr. Q and his girlfriend, Francis Holt, Tita. Look at Tita right here. Look at this. It look like she went from being a nurse, working 3 shifts, look at her at Hofburg Palace. Isn't that crazy? Isn't that amazing? Right? What's that?
What's the one beside you in the back?
That's Dr. Q. Oh, this is the conductor for the music.
I was going to say, it looks almost like
Yeah. And this is us. This is us with my buddy. My buddy here, he owns Centurion Black Jets. So anytime we want to go somewhere, he charters all the jets and stuff like that. We were going somewhere. I think we were going to Aspen up there, right? This is the kids at the house and for Easter. So you get a chance to do cool stuff. Cabo, kids having a blast there. Go next page. Go next page, right? So I'm going to end with this. Right? So let's say you want to have a breakthrough, right? You want to have a breakthrough. What's a breakthrough, right? It's a shift. It's a paradigm shift, right? It doesn't matter how long you've been in the business. Because some of you are talking old story, oh man, I've been here for 5 years, I've been here for 8 years, I've been here. The business starts when you decide. So let's say you decide, you go, man, I'm going to make an aggressive move. The first thing that has to happen in a breakthrough is you got to change your state. You got to put yourself in the right state. Never make life-changing decisions when you're down, right? Your mental and emotional state is a major factor in your perception, and a key to breakthrough, right? Now, how do you change your state? right? So there's things that we have that are called anchors. Like for me, I get up in the morning, I meditate, I swim in a cold pool. That changes my state instantly, right? So there's certain things, there's triggers that you might have that automatically puts you in a negative state. So for example, you look at your phone, right? There's certain people that are in your address book on your phone, automatically when their name shows up, they're calling you, it automatically sends a trigger and puts you in a bad state. Because you know you're about to hear some drama.
Yes.
Right? And there's certain people, the minute that their names come on your phone, you go, oh my God, something great's about to happen. They're about to do something. There's certain people that you're around, you feel a certain way, and there's certain people when you're around, you feel another different way. You need to be clear now. You need to be clear on, wait a minute, every time I get around this person, I feel bad. Or something, just something, right? So you must set boundaries. Like I have boundaries. Here's what I mean by boundaries, right? I am not a marriage counselor. Does that make sense? I'm just not a marriage counselor. So if you walk in my office and you're like, hey Dad, can I talk to you? About what? Well, my husband and I, I'm not a marriage counselor. But what I can do is I can refer you to a good marriage counselor. Does that make sense? So I don't have those conversations. Where before, I was a marriage counselor. Oh, come on in. What happened? What? What happened? Yeah. Oh, really? Oh my God. Well, you should do this. You should. I don't even have, I have friends that are therapists, you guys. When you really start to understand some of the challenges people have, it's malpractice for me to give you information on that. Does that make sense? Plus, it's none of my business. I don't want to know your personal situation. Go pay someone. Go pay a marriage counselor and sit down with a marriage counselor. That's a professional to talk to you about your personal relationship. Make sense? So that's one thing I don't have to deal with. I'm also not a therapist. So if you're like, dude, I don't know what's wrong with me. I'm not a therapist. But I know a really good therapist for you to go see. Right? So that's another thing that thing. I'm also not a banker. Hey, I'm having some problem. Can I get a loan? I'm not in the loan business. But I know a banker that can help you with that. So define my role. I'm a leader. I'm a leader. So what do I talk about? I talk about building a business, building a team, achieving your dreams, recruiting, helping families. Now, before, I didn't do that. So I would go through all day long in my office, right? Marriage counselor, therapist, lending money, all these conversations that are energy draining. And at the end of the day, I would get home and I would go, oh my God, I'm so drained. And what did I do? I didn't recruit anyone, and I didn't help one family. And I didn't make any money. And then you go home and you're like, man, I'm so tired. Why am I so tired? Because you've been putting out fires all day long. You've been having these conversations that's draining you all day long. You ever notice, like when you recruit someone, you're fired up? Yeah. You ever notice, like you go across the kitchen table, you close an app, right? You ever notice you're never tired when you close business? You ever notice that? I remember I was talking to one of the leaders. He says to me, he says, Dan, I've always known what made me feel good. And I did what made me feel good longer than anyone else. Right? So that's a part of the business that wears you out, but you need to be conscious of it. Does that make sense? So you got to learn how to change your state and put yourself in the right state and not allow people to waste your time. You follow me on that? So that's one. The second thing is what we talked about. You got to change your story. You got to change your story, right? Common stories like, I'm just not good with people, or only those born rich get richer. Or stories we tell ourselves that keep us from implementing our goals. We must change those limited beliefs to unlock true potential. I'll give you an example, right? A friend of mine in LA, big personal producer, right? He's been in the industry for 25 years. So we're at the club the other day having a cigar. He goes, Charlie, yeah, I just closed a $50 million policy. I said, no way, you're freaking stuck, right? And he said, you'll never believe the objection I overcame, right? So he's delivering this $50 million policy, right? So he's sitting in this big mansion in Beverly Hills, 25,000 square foot house mansion, and he's sitting there, he's going over the policy with the guy, and the guy goes, wait a minute, these premiums are so expensive. And he goes, being rich is expensive. He says, think about it. Your home. There's nothing cheap about this house. This house is expensive. Your cars. You just showed me your garage. You have 2 Ferraris in there, 2 Lambos in there. You got a couple of Rolls Royces in there. Those are very expensive. Your wife. She has expensive taste. Of course your policy is expensive. Do you expect anything less? Sign here. And he closed it, right? So it's just a story. So he gave him a story. This is expensive. And he gave him another story. And he bought the story. So the stories you're telling yourself, realize that they're just stories. They're just stories. Whatever story you have on why you don't have gas, whatever story you have on why you're not building a base, is a story. So what about if you created a new story that served you and go, hey, I'm the #1 recruiter I know. I'm the #1 recruiter I know. I remember Mylette was doing a BPM like this on a Saturday, right? And he said, man, if you knew you were going to recruit your biggest guy, right? You absolutely knew this guy was going to be your biggest guy. Who would you put in front of him to recruit him? And then everybody in the base shop raised their hand. Man, we put you in front of him. And I remember sitting up there, I was like, you know what? I want to be able to say I would put me in front of him. So who do I need to become? You follow me? Choose to become effective. Choose to become effective. A lot of time we chase titles, but we can't close the door behind us. You got to get good at this stuff. You got to master your craft. Right? And 3, you got to create a strategy. You got to create a strategy. The best mindset can overcome a bad plan. Look to leaders who've achieved turnaround and transformation. Study what went right. Remember that plane that landed in the water in the Hudson River? So I was watching a movie the other day, right? And what a great story. First time I watched the movie. So they were talking to the pilot. They were talking to the pilot about turbulence, right? And the pilot goes, if a plane has enough thrust, it can fly through anything. See, a lot of times, the challenges that you're having in your life right now, you just don't have enough momentum. Because if you got enough momentum, somebody's like, well, you know, I had a $1,000 charge. Are you freaking kidding me? If you had 30, 40, 50 apps down the range right now, would you be thinking about that? Matter of fact, who has the most amount of chargebacks in the entire team? Me. You ever hear me talking about it? Hell no. I got too much momentum. It doesn't matter. Checks come in twice a week. Doesn't matter. They get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. You must create momentum. Stop thinking about the big. What if every time do you think there's some people on the team that quit? Do you think there's some people on the team that failed their tests? Do you think all that stuff happens? Yeah. What do you always hear from me? You always hear good news. There's always something good going on. Right? But when you're small, the little things get magnified when you're small. You have someone fail a test. Oh my God, you failed the test. Oh my God, someone failed a test in my base shop. I go, oh my God, I'm sorry to hear that. But we had like 8 people that passed. We had 8 people that passed. You got to apply yourself. I failed the test. I failed my life once. I failed my 6 twice. I failed my 63 twice. I failed my 26 4 times. You know what I learned? I needed to learn how to apply myself. It wasn't that the test was hard. It's that I wasn't applying myself. But because I failed the test, guess what? I can relate to you. I understand. So now, for the rest of my career, I could go, I failed my test too.
You follow me? The guy that just passed his test his first time can't relate, but I can relate. So, schedule your test date, go take your test, you'll pass it. Boom. It's a 2-minute conversation, right? Now, go, I want to show you one last thing. Go. Stop. Next one. Bam, okay. Why are you going to do all this stuff? Right? Why are you going to work on yourself, do all this stuff, do all this work, blah, 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 all this stuff, right? Now you want to get the top 3% of earners, right? You got to be at least over $250,000 a year, right? So let's say you go build a base shop, right? Monthly base shop production, 6 personal IULs, 3 team IULs, 24 app base shop, 2200 average target premium. That's 52,000 points in your base, right? So you got senior associate, training associate, your personal production. You pick up 10,000 on your personal production. Team earnings, overrides, 3,300, 4,200, 6,600. You pick up 24,000 a month. That's $296,000 a year. And your S&D bonus, that's 64,000. That's 64,000. Total annual income, $360,000 a year. All right. So when I ask someone, I say, hey, if I can show you, regardless of who I'm talking to, if I'm talking to a guy making $30,000, $40,000 a month, I said, hey, what's your dream income? If I can show you how to make $250,000, if I can show you how to make $300,000 a year, is there any logical reason why you can get started? LA County has 9.8 million people. The average median income in LA County is $56,000 a year. So the guy, when I pull up my car and the guy goes, oh my God, that's such a beautiful car, and I say, hey, if I could show you how to make an extra $1,000 to $2,000 a month, what would that do for your family? He goes, oh my God, that would be awesome. Let me get your name and number, and I'll have one of my agents give you a call. I can give everybody an opportunity. You follow me? So if I got 9.8 million people in LA County and the average median income is $56,000 a year, what are people worried about? People are worried about money. They're stressed out financially. Guess what we've done? We brought a new idea to an old industry, and the goal is to revolutionize that industry. Right? So you go to Beverly Hills, you walk into Neiman Marcus, right? My anniversary is coming up, so I got to get my wife something cool, right? So you walk into Neiman Marcus, you go shopping in Neiman Marcus. Neiman Marcus represents a brand, right? So you buy something, you got a beautiful bag there that says Neiman Marcus. You walk around Rodeo Drive, and it's all fancy, and boom, everybody goes, oh, he went to Neiman Marcus, oh, blah, 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 right? Now you drive 12 miles down the road, you're in the hood now. Right? In the hood, they got 99-cent store, right? So you go to a 99-cent store, you walk out with a 99-cent store, you probably roll up the bag, put it in another bag, because you don't want anyone to see that you were in a 99-cent store. Because 99-cent store represents something else. But what most people have failed to realize, the owners of the 99-cent store bought out Neiman Marcus. Right? So you look at the financial service industry being a $63 trillion industry, it's a very biased industry. So what we did is we said, look, if the 80% of the population is overlooked by the financial service industry, here's what we're going to do. We're going to take financial instruments, financial education to the 80% of the population. Here's what else are we going to do. We're going to give the average person an opportunity to be in business for themselves, but not by themselves. So regardless of my success now, when I sit down with someone, if they're making $2-3 grand a month, that's where I come from. There's a big difference. So I know what they feel like because that's where I come from. The only difference between me and them is time and opportunity and decision. That's what makes it so powerful, you guys. That's why we have such a diverse background. That's why the industry sticks their nose at us. My buddies now, I have buddies that private banking, one of my buddies, really good friend of mine, I actually got to stop talking about him, but I can't. But we were in Paris, right? We were in Paris, his family owns all this stuff, right? So I said to him, I said, hey man, I want to come down to private banking, I want to to see what you guys do with the rich folks. Because, you got to have, a lot of money to sit down with them, right? So he said, yeah, come down. So I go down, right to Century City, right? I go down to his office, it comes in, it's freaking immaculate. The office is like immaculate, right? I walk in, blah, 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 all this stuff. They bring me tea, coffee, and all this stuff. And I sit down, And he breaks out his presentation as their financial needs. It's exactly the same stuff we do. I was like, oh my God. I was like, can I get a copy of this? I took the copy of it so I could go train the team. They do exactly what we do. They use different language and all this stuff, but it's the same stuff, right? So you look at that, right? Go to the next one, right? You go out, you build a hierarchy, right? You go out and build a hierarchy. Now you got 10 frontline first generation, 5 second generation, third, 4 third, 5 third. Now you got $133,000 a month, right? Your bonus, your base shop $24,000, add annual bonus 64, you had $158,000 a month. Right? That puts you at where? $158,000 a month. Click the next one. Right? That puts you at $1.9 million a year. It's totally doable. Sometimes people say, well, Dan, how long would it take me to do that? Well, that's a stupid question. You realize how stupid that is? Like, how long would it take you to do it where you're at? You ever thought about that? Like, because the reason I say that, you guys, I was just telling Jason a few minutes ago, this would have been my 30th year in the Marine Corps. When I pull up the military, you guys, I talk about the Marine Corps, but I love being a Marine. Don't get that twisted, right? But this would have been my 30th year in the Marine Corps, right? You know what my military pay would have been at E9, 30 years in the Marine Corps? $7,500 a month. You know what my retirement would have been? 40% of that $7,500, which would have been a check of $2,800. See, the thing that you have to understand is, I would have never had the possibility to do this. You realize, majority of my friends that I used to be, I can't even talk to them about the income that I make. I mean, it's just too uncomfortable. You follow me on that? But here you have the possibility. What if it took you 2 years, 3 years, 4 years to go make $300,000-$400,000 a year? Most small businesses, most entrepreneurs, they invest $400,000, $500,000, $600,000, if not millions, to buy a business, and if they can keep that business just in business and break even within a 5-year period, it's a success. See, you have to study your craft. I'm around a lot of successful people, and let me tell you something. Our business, I wouldn't change my lifestyle and my business for any of them. My wife and I last year we went to the Maldives. We went to Dubai for 5 days and we were in Maldives for 10, right? And the couple we went to, he's a good friend of mine. He's one of the top plastic surgeons in Beverly Hills. So we're in Dubai. We're having dinner, right? So I said, Doc, I said, man, you don't look happy today, man. What the hell's going on with you? What are you thinking about? You look like you pissed off. And he says, Dan, he says, what did we do today? I said, well, we hung out by the pool, read a couple of books, chilled, had something to drink. He says, exactly. He says, do you know how much money it's costing me to be here? I said, Doc, what are you talking about? He goes, dude, I do 4 to 5 surgeries a day. Each surgery is $25,000 to $30,000 per surgery. I said, Doc, we're out here for 14 days. Are you going to do this to yourself every freaking day, bro? Because you're not going to enjoy yourself. He says, it's costing me a couple of $1 million to be on this trip. Right? So I see a lot of people, they have money, but they don't have time. Then I see people that they have time, but they ain't got no money. That's no fun, right? It's called being broke, right? So the thing is why are you recruiting a base shop? Why are you recruiting? Because you want outlets and you want outlet openers. So regardless if I'm in France, regardless whether I'm traveling around the world, I've got 3,500 licensed agents, 200 brokers, 62 offices. It doesn't matter. Someone's doing something. You follow me? But imagine being in a position, you guys, right? Imagine being in a position where every day you get up, you love what you do. Every day you get up, you're making a difference. You're giving people hope. You're giving people an opportunity. Either across the kitchen table. Who's going to sit across the kitchen table and do what we do for families? No one else is going to do it, you guys. Only us is going to do it. I was doing a field training appointment the other day for a young family in an apartment, and we sat down and I was field training one of the ladies on the team. Did the whole presentation, all this stuff, go by, and families saving a couple of $100 a month, $200-300 a month. And the guy asks me, right? The guy asks me, he says, "Well, can I ask you a question?" I said, "Yeah." He says, "How much money are you going to make on this?" I said, wow. He said, you want me to be honest with you? He says, yeah, I would like for you to be honest. He was serious too. He said, I want you to be honest with me. I said, to be honest with you, it's actually costing me money. He goes, well, what does that mean? I said, actually, my time's worth more than sitting across your kitchen table. I'm actually here to train her. I said, but if we're going to talk about how much money I'm going to make on this, I'm probably not the right guy for you to see. Because, to be honest with you, I don't even want to be here, but I'm here because of what we do. And our crusade of what we do is to help your family, because your family, there's a lot of things that we discuss that you guys need. But if you're at a position where you don't see value in that, I can be gone in like 10 seconds. And the guy goes, no, I just wanted to know. I said, let me ask you a question, because here's a bigger question. What about if I could show you, because I'll make probably $2,000, $1,500 on this. What if I could show you how to do this and you can make an extra $1,000 or $2,000? Because that's what we should be talking about. He says, you think I could do this? I go, well, when I was sitting in your chair, I was making $2,800 a month, and I was broke, and I was living payday to payday, and I was making $10 an hour. And someone had this conversation with me, and I listened. I had the right amount of frustration, and I totally changed my life. So if you want to have that conversation, now I'm the guy to talk to about this. And we recruited the couple.
Wow.
Right? Because what I was saying to him, I wasn't being condescending. I was just being authentic and real to him. Because here's the thing, you guys, and here's what I want you to realize. At some point, you have to look in the mirror and love you. Does that make sense? So you have to be able to look in the mirror and go, you know what? I love me. And once you're able to say to yourself, I love me, you're no longer looking for other people's approval. Does that make sense? So once you're no longer looking for other people's approval, it doesn't mean that you're condescending to them. It doesn't mean that you're talked down to them. But I don't need you to like me, because I already like me. Right? So I'm here for a cause, for a crusade. I want to help. But I'm not just doing it because I want you to like me. I'm not just going to tell you what you need to hear. I'm not just going to tell you what you want to hear. I'm going to tell you what you need to hear. And you have to communicate it in a way where it's not offensive. Does that make sense? And then the business becomes easy. So here's my challenge to you guys today, this morning. My challenge to you, to this team right here, you guys got to get uncomfortable. Right? You guys are set in a routine. You guys got to get uncomfortable. There's someone right now within a 10-mile radius of this office that's looking for this opportunity. The problem is you guys are scared to go out and talk to people. Because you're still more concerned about what they think about you versus the value that you're bringing into their lives. Within a 10-mile radius, there's someone in a home right now that's struggling, that's looking for this opportunity, and you're afraid to talk. My challenge is that you guys got to get on a recruiting blitz. Every time someone comes within 3 feet of you, you got to talk to them about the opportunity. And it doesn't have to be something complicated. The first time I got prospected, you know what the lady said to me? The lady walked up to me. I was in Laguna Beach. I was in Laguna Beach at the White House in Laguna Beach. And the lady says to me, I've watched your mannerism tonight. If you were in business with me part-time, you make $3,000 to $5,000 part-time. Here's my card. Give me a call when you're ready. 6 months later, I called her. She planted a seed. Right? So just get in the habit of planting seeds and planting seeds and planting seeds, and you'll see your phone starts to ring. Okay. Do I have any questions? You guys can ask some questions. You guys are always going to ask some questions. You're like, that's a stupid question. No, I'm just kidding.
Just because I know the story, so you got that card, and then they invited you to the BPM.
No, I got the card, and then my self-talk started. You know, I looked at the card, and I was like, it's probably one of these things, I can't. And I talked myself out of it, which most people do, right? I got back to my barracks, and I threw the card in the drawer. That's how I'm going. And then 6 months later, I'm frustrated on my job, and all I can do is remember what she told me. And then I gave her a call. Then she invited me to a meeting, then I talked myself out of it again. And I was like, oh, this is one of these multi-level scam deals. Blah, blah. And then I went home and I told my ex-wife the real deal. I was like, oh, I went to take a look at some scam and it's there, everybody's happy, but you know, what broke people do, right? And I was broke. So I had that. And then my wife went to talk to Christiana. I told Christiana, laughing, she's like, oh, my husband went to go see a scam last night. Christiana happens to say, what's the name of the scam? He says, WMA. He goes, oh my heart, oh my God. And then that's when it happened. And then when Ed called me being a dum-dum again, I go, I'm not interested. He said, of course you're not interested. How could you be interested in something you know nothing about? Dummy. I'm coming to see you. Right? So in that conversation, he was more certain than I was. You follow me? And he wasn't afraid to challenge my thinking.
There's a lot of people that don't know who Ed is.
That's okay. You should know. Just go on YouTube. There's a whole bunch of stuff. Right? And that's the other thing. You guys, we're in the information age. Stop waiting for things to come to you. Take initiative. Go on YouTube. Ed Milet. There's a gang of stuff. How do you not know? Stop waiting for people. How do you not know that? Does that make sense? Stop waiting for people to show you stuff. Be inquisitive. Learn all this stuff. Oh, I don't know how to invite. There's tons of information on the invitation. That's not the real deal. The thing is, you don't have a compelling reason to go work. You have to have a compelling, which is why you have to identify a new why. Because whenever you have a challenge on how to, it's because your why to is not big enough. And you have to increase your standards. You have to increase your standards. Because when you drop your standards, you won't even get that, you'll get half of that. Cool? What else? Anything else? Any more questions?
Yeah, what's your vision for the team over the next announce convention, for this team in specific? What do you see as?
How do you see it? How do you see this team? You're here more.
You know what?
What's your vision for this team?
I look at this team, I think, you know what, we're a little bit at idle, but you know what, if we turn on the switch and we turn around and we make the conscious effort in order to go out to the next level.
Which is what?
Which is for Francis's team is EBC, and as well as for Simon's team is also EBC. I think we can have 2 EBC teams by come convention.
See, you knew it already. See that? Give him a round of applause. And the question becomes, who do you need to become? Who do you need to become in order for these 2 teams to become EBC teams? Maybe you need to become an SMD. Maybe you don't have your ring. You need to get your ring, right? Maybe you have your ring. You need to go to $100,000 to $250,000, $250,000 a year, right? Maybe you need to become the best inviter. Maybe you need to become the person that sets the most amount of appointments, right? Maybe you need to become the person that recruits the biggest guy in Chino and puts Chino on the map. Because right now, Chino's not on the map. No one even knows about Chino. I said, hey, I'm going to Chino. Everybody's like, what's that? There's an office there? Right? You need to put a footprint on Chino. Because when we were in Pipeline, we had a footprint on Chino. Is this Chino Hills or Chino?
Chino.
Chino? Yeah. You guys need to put, the only thing people know about Chino that there's a jail up there. Does that make sense?
You know, they think of the old office. The one
Exactly,
that's
because we had a big footprint. We had a big footprint. Our parking lot was never that empty. You follow me? There should be BPMs. How many nights do you have BPMs here? Twice? Twice? There should be BPM Monday night, Tuesday night, Wednesday night, Thursday night. You should be sitting in here, you should be going, hey, Monday night BPM, you got to start envisioning it. They say, man, I'm going to build my own team. I'm going to have my Monday night. I'm going to have 50, 60, 70 people coming out Monday night, right? And then Saturday mornings, there should be Monday night BPM, Tuesday night BPM, Wednesday night BPM, Thursday night BPM, Saturday morning, we all get together. Saturday afternoon, Spanish BPM. Right? You guys gotta get this thing hot. Ever go to church out here on Sundays? The place is packed. That's how this office should be every freaking night. There's tons of people out here. And that's the same thing I was telling the team when we were in Chino, when we were in Pipeline. When our parking lot used to be, at first I used to see it in my mind. And I remember Paul Ireton just being like you in the base. Yeah, he is SMD. Paul Ireton came up to me and said, hey, I want to do BPM and I want to know if you can give me some feedback. So I sat in the back of the room, 50 guests. We got 200 people in the training room. I'm watching Paul Ireton give the BPM. And after, he says, what could I have done better? I said, dude, you did a great job. You nailed the BPM. But let me ask you a question. He says, right. I says, Did you imagine those 50 guests being on your team? Did you imagine those 200 people next door being on your team? He goes, oh, I never thought about it. So the first thing is, you have to have the picture in your mind. Right? So last year, December last year, I go to Paul Ireton's Wealth Bowl. He has 750 people at his Wealth Bowl. Just because now he created a picture in his mind. He went out, started having his own night, started building his team, focused on the captain system, driving invitation, started recruiting leaders, got really specific. He said, hey, I'm 5 years ago, if I told Paul Ireton, hey, I want you to bring your entire team to my house for a barbecue, he could barely get 5 people. That's 5 years ago. And all of a sudden, he recruits Tita Lazan, because he did specific recruiting, recruits Tita Lazan, and boom, that creates an explosion in his business. You are literally one recruit away from an explosion. Most of us have had that perception where we think our success is so far. It's right in front of you. You're one recruit away from an explosion. You guys, when I went to Beverly Hills, I knew nobody. I knew nobody. But what I said to myself every day, Jason, dude, I'm one recruit away from an explosion. I know how to do this crap now. I don't have to wonder now. I got to get specific. Here's what I'm looking at, and here's what I'm looking for. And when you get that specific and you set your intention, you don't even have to go looking for it. It comes to you. Like effortlessly when you learn how to do that. That makes sense? But you got to work hard, you guys. You got to work hard. Cool? Anything else? All right. You guys know I appreciate you guys, right? You guys are like one of my favorites, man. I got all these faces here that bring back such joy memories. Oh.
You talk about intentions and all that kind of stuff, which is true. I don't think it's missing inside of your soul or in your spirit, but do you recognize the idea that when you set your intentions and get specific and you can visualize that you're plugging into God's vision for you?
Of course.
And it becomes a thing where he recognizes and that's how it, because I think sometimes people think it's just a matter of like, if I say
That's
it
part of
becomes.
wrong. That's part of wrong. Well,
Yeah.
if I say it, it does become, but there's
Well,
a
yeah,
whole
but
thing
there's
behind
a,
it,
yeah.
right? You also got to work too, right? Right? The harder you work, the luckier you become. All that stuff. That's part of growth, right? I was talking to one of my buddies the other day. He's like, man, I'm hustling. I was like, dude, you don't have to hustle your whole life. It's also a story. I know how to hustle, but I don't want to hustle my whole life. Everybody call me, hey, what are you doing today? Whatever I want. Right?
Yeah.
Whatever I want. That's what I'm doing. What do you mean, whatever you want? Whatever I want. That's what I'm doing. Right? So as you build your business, it will come to a point where you have a business built. You have a business built. So as I'm standing here, I've got 4,000 licensed agents and growing. And it continues to grow, continues to grow, continues to grow, continues to grow. What you want, you guys, big house, you lose it, you get another one. Nice car, you lose it, you get another one. Money, you lose it, you get more. Never get back your time. Never get back your time. What you want is your time. That makes sense? That's one of the greatest joy in life is having time. How many of us have kids? Right? Time. Right? That's one of the greatest joys in life. But also at the same time, what shapes the identity of your kids and how they see the world treat you when you walk into a room. That's what shapes the identity of your kids. You realize how precious that is? I mean, we were getting ready to go to Hawaii, and the principal at the school told my kids they can't go to Hawaii because they can't miss school. So my wife and I went to talk to the principal, and we said, hey, our kids are going to Hawaii. She's like, well, spring break's coming up, you guys should be doing spring break. And I said to her, well, we have options. She said, well, what do you mean? I said, well, our kids don't have to come here. She says, well, what do you mean? I said, well, didn't you guys just lay off a bunch of teachers? She says, yeah. I said, well, we talked to one in the valley, and she's willing to come work with the family, and she'll travel with us. And the only cost is $30,000 for the year. It's not a big deal. So if, this is a problem, then, we'll pull the kids out. No, we can adjust, Thank you. Options. Does that make sense? Options. Right? I don't want no one to tell me what I can do, what I can't do, where I can live, where I can't live, or my kids. I don't want no one to be, I don't want to be on no one's thumb. Does that make sense? I don't want to have a boss. I want to wake up to a freaking alarm clock and show up at a freaking job. I don't want to do that, right? So you have to allow those things to dissatisfy you enough where you go from I'm scared to making a call to like I'm scared of not making the call. To I'm scared of going across the kitchen table. I'm scared not to go across the kitchen table. You follow me? So whatever you fear, your dream is so big that that's no longer becomes a fear. Because my dream is so big. But if my fear is bigger than my dream, I'll never achieve my dream. Then you'll settle. You'll be at 98% of the population. You'll be a good guy. I want to be a good guy. I mean, good people get poor results. The enemy of you becoming great is you settling for being good. I want my kids going, hey, my dad's a good dad. I ain't a freaking good dad. Does that make sense? You don't live in like an average house. You don't live, you have high standards. Raise your personal standards. You're willing to do the things that most people are not willing to do so you can live the life that most people only dream of. Does that make sense? That's the exchange. And that can start from today if you change your story. Cool? Thank you guys. Have a great day.
Spend an hour working on your business, change your story, make your dial, and then enjoy the rest of your holiday weekend. Thank you, guys.
18.
She just signed up. Phone number. Okay, go
Good?
Hello, how are you? Good. I know.
I'm going to the right. Why? You have plans?
Oh, even the old boy.
They said, are you going to there?
He's all right.
Francis,
Did you have a
what
boy?
do we do for the,
Yeah.
you want help to do something?
I listened to the whole thing and got upstairs.
Oh, you're so cute, you wanna come in and cop the squad, did you get a chance to send